review of Frankenstein Unbound, which is a Roger Corman B movie. I guess maybe at its finest or worst, in case depending on how you feel about B movies. Roger Corman's probably known as the king of B movies, from what I know and understand, as far as producing and directing them. I think he's responsible for even such greats as Death Race 2000. I don't think that he produced that one. I mean, directed that one. I believe he was a producer on it, but I think that was like another one of his babies. But yeah, this movie came out in 1990 by Roger Corman, and actually, believe it or not, has some pretty well known and prolific actors. The lead actor in this movie being John Hurt, playing the scientist, the uh, future scientist. Starts out in 2031, and he's playing scientist Joseph Buchanan, and starts out with he's been responsible for making some type of weapon for the government. I believe we're supposed to assume it's the United States government, but they're looking for a weapon that's not going to have any type of detrimental side effects, such as like nuclear fallout or waste or something like that associated with that we have associated with nuclear weapons. What his weapon is just going to make, when he zaps it with this laser or whatever particle beam that he's invented, it's just going to make it cease to exist. Well, in doing so, it seems like his experiments and experimentation with this new weapon is causing slips in time. And shortly after the movie, he shows him in his lab experimenting. After the movie starts, he's got his way back home, and one of these time slips appears to happen, and a raider or warrior from another time, and look kind of like I don't know, kind of like seemed like a Attila the Hun or a Mongol warrior or some type of pastiche like that, come through a time slip and tries to attack him with the weapon, but doesn't work. And then shortly thereafter, he disappears back into time. However, another occurrence happens shortly thereafter, and he gets sucked into time, but he gets sucked into the time of Frankenstein, which is like circa 1815, 1816, I believe, is when the story is supposed to take place. And he gets sucked into Switzerland, and yeah, he's right outside of Geneva in Switzerland, and he's there with his new futuristic car and everything, and he just goes around and pretty much has no problems interacting with anybody, or has no care of what his actions or whatever. It's kind of funny, his actions might have related into the future. So his interactions with the past, he doesn't seem to have a care. He just does everything willy nilly with the future. But in this time that he's gone into, he goes and he ventures into a tavern, or so to speak, and there he actually meets Dr. Frankenstein reading the paper. And when he sits down at a table and introduces himself, and Dr. Frankenstein's his watch starts beeping, and Frankenstein's kind of fascinated with his piece of technology there, and they get an interaction, and then Frankenstein then kind of becomes very standoffish to him and cuts away from him, but Joe Buchanan's following him throughout town and stuff, and finds him and sees him interacting with a strange being in the woods. And then later on, it comes out, and he learns that there's a young girl that's supposed to be executed for a murder, and they come to find out that that was same as in the Frankenstein story, it was the servant that um, of the Frankenstein family that got framed or accused of murdering Frankenstein's real little young brother at the time, that was actually murdered by the monster. And then all this ensues, and Joseph Baudouin just then he also and then he goes to the Joe Buchanan goes to the trial, and at the trial is actually is Mary Shelley is at the trial. So the author of the story is actually recounting the tale and everything, and then Joe Buchanan finds out that Mary Shelley is there, and he's just putting two and two together, and then he has interactions with her, and he actually, with his magical car, prints out a hard copy of her story, and he kind of relays the importance of the story her story is going to have on uh, what the literary community in the future, and he has interactions with her, and he actually hooks up with her at one point, and one thing leads to another, and he actually has a run-in encounters with Lord Byron and Percy Shelley. Lord Byron is actually played by uh, Jason Patrick, and Percy Shelley. They don't have real big roles in it, but Percy Shelley is actually portrayed by Michael Hutchins of In Excess fame, and he interacts with them, and then with Mary Shelley, and then he takes her around town. He puts her in her car willy nilly, and they later and shortly thereafter he actually is driving right outside of town in his car in his horseless carriage. He has people kind of look at it weird, but all the villagers don't really have a real big freak out or anything about it. And then later on, it's coming out. He kind of tracks Frankenstein down again, one of his interactions with the monster, and this is the point where the monster is demanding him that he makes a mate. And shortly thereafter, um, he sends word for his Frankenstein sends word for his wife Elizabeth, or soon to be wife Elizabeth, to meet him. And then when that happens, the monster kind of is stalking her, and he had been threatening Frankenstein that he's going to, if he doesn't create a mate for her, he's gonna do and destroy him and everything he loves. And he tracks Elizabeth. He tracks Elizabeth down on her when she's on her carriage and runs her down and pretty much murders her right in front of Frankenstein. And then so Frankenstein feels like he has no other choice. He's just kind of distraught, but he's going he's going fairly mad at this point. He recreates his experiment and uses uses the energy and power. And Joe Buchanan agrees to help him with bringing this new creation to life. And then shortly after he does that, just like in the story, everything goes awry, and the Frankenstein monster's interaction doesn't go as planned. And then she the the new mate that was to be Frankenstein monster mate turns away from Frankenstein and kind of looks at Victor and is favoring Victor Frankenstein over the monster. And then but she's kind of torn between the two, and then she sees herself and what she is, and she kills herself, and the monster goes into a rage, and then kind of lifts pretty cool scene in the movie. Kind of lifts Frankenstein up overhead and pretty much just snaps him in half like a twig. And then Joe Buchanan's there with his car and everything. And then all this when this is going on, and they're using the power of lightning in conjunction with the car to generate the energy to bring this being back to life, is causing a time slip once again. And so the monster and Buchanan get sucked into a different time. This time it's in a barren world way in the future. And when they go into this, they find a building in this like desolate, frozen tundra, and actually Buchanan discovers it to be his lab in the way distant future. And he kind of does a series of things, and he's got all these different particle beam weapons and stuff, and it reacts to his voice and most different motions and sounds he makes with his hands. And he's running around. The monster's there pursuing him, and he kind of does the things, and he sets off another number of particle beams, which are actually able to eventually destroy the monster, so he thinks. But after he does so, he comes out, and then he's just hearing in the voice in his head that he pretty much now he hasn't destroyed the monster. He's let it loose, and he says, "I am now the monster's." You hear the monster in the background saying, I am not destroyed. I am now unbound." And then you see Joe Buchanan leaving his laboratory, and he's going to some futuristic looking post apocalyptic type city, but doesn't really seem like there's any signs of life there. And yeah, you just hear that, and then the kind of movie ends with him walking to this desolate, futuristic, post-apocalyptic city, and he's all alone by himself, and it looks like whatever he's created is pretty much brought it in or destroyed the world as a whole, and it ends there. Um, it's okay. This movie, uh, it depends if you like B movies. If you like B movies and watch something weird, this movie's real weird. Actually, it's just the way it's cut and the effects and everything are kind of weird. But like I said, it's got a number of fairly prolific or well-known actors in it. Raul Julia, Victor Frankenstein, Bridget Fonda as Mary Shelley, John Hurt, which I once again was the main character. Um, Jason Patrick's in the movie, and Michael Hutchins. Excuse me. And yeah, all the actors, I don't think they had much to work with, but with what they're given, they try to make something. And Raul Julia, especially, just you kind of chews up on the scenery, and it's kind of funny the way he acts and stuff as Victor Frankenstein in the story. Bridget Fonda's portrayal of Mary Shelley, I think, is adequate. And John Hurt's always great, but like I said, I just don't think there was much in the way of the screenplay or for him to work with. He did his best, and you could tell this movie had a very small budget. I mean, there's some cool gore if you like gore in the movie with the monster and things he does, but other than that, it's an okay free to watch. You can find it. I think it's free on YouTube actually right now, and a couple other places, or you can find a copy of it fairly cheap. I think I found one on eBay for $8-9. So if you're looking for something bored, and if you're a big fan of the Frankenstein mythos and legend and stuff, and maybe looking for an inspiration for a RPG game or something like that, you could check out this movie. It's not. I think it has a runtime of 83 minutes, so it's a very short and quick movie. So yeah, Frankenstein Unbound. Um, I'm kind of doing this out of order. I'll be doing a review of the book next. Hopefully, have that up next couple days here. The book is quick, like this movie. I think the book clocks in at like 150 pages. So yeah, I give this movie 2 out of 4. It's okay, not great, but if you're looking for something like Frankenstein Mythos, check it out. All right, bye.